Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we are back with another video, but a little different this time. I mentioned on the last live stream that there was a book released by Creative Assembly called Tales from the Total War Warhammer Fantasy Battles universe. That was released for free as a PDF and it will be linked below, but it has two stories, the Peasant Knight and the Nocturne for Musilon. So, today we're going to go over one. We're going to go over the Peasant Knight. So, without further ado, let's begin. Before the Peasant Knight begins, there are two vows that are said across Bretonnia. One is the Knight's Vow, and one is the Peasant's Duty, which I will now recite. The Knight's Vow. When the clarion is sounded, I will ride out and fight in the name of liege and lady. Whilst I draw breath, the lands bequeathed unto me will remain untainted by evil. Honor is all, chivalry is all. Sounds simple enough, but now here comes the peasant's duty. Thou shalt give unto thine glorious liege the taxes that he requires. Thou shalt labour all but feast days, and no more than a 10th share shall you keep for kith and kin. Rejoice, for a knight of Bretonnia provides your shield. As you can tell, Bretonian peasants don't have a good life in their own land, but they are relatively protected. But we'll discuss that in a lore video in a few days' time. Until then, let us begin now with the Peasant Knight. A peasant's lot is short and insignificant in Bretonnia. To be a knight, you must be noble born. For all other folk, there is naught but serfdom and servitude. Very occasionally, though, there are tales where one who is not noble born has been granted a knighthood. One such legend is Sir Geg of Wainfleet. Geg was a farmer's son, a simple man of simple tastes. He worked in the fields every day, for pittance and a jug of ale every lady's eve. His lord was Sir Gallus, a young, selfish knight, bequeathed the village of Wainfleet and its surrounding lands by his uncle. Sir Gallus was a knight in name only, a cruel landlord who chased his tenants on horseback for sport, or even executed his charges for the most trivial of misdemeanors. As winter approached in the 3rd year of Gallus's reign, he heard the word of the Grail and set off without nary a word, leaving his small folk to fend for themselves, although his tax collectors were clearly under orders to carry on collecting. Sir Gallus wasn't seen all winter, but at spring dawn the knight returned. He did not speak of where he had been, and he looked changed, subdued with an unsightly carbuncle under his chin. Gone was the malefic exuberance of yore. He simply trotted on his steed back to his keep in the centre of Wainfleet. He entered his keep and locked the door, and there he stayed. Spring turned into summer, and then into harvest. Sir Gallus did not emerge. Geg cared not about his liege. He ignored the gossips on the market day that said that there was movement in the keep, and the knight was still very much alive. The farmhand simply carried on doing what he always did, but then the goblins came. The greenskins raided, slaying folk, putting crops to the torch. Sir Gallus did not ride out. He ignored his knightly vow. Geg was a big man, with big arms and big hands, and folk thought him simple in the head because of it. But that was not the case. He just wanted a simple life. But when his lot got more complicated, he got angry. He fought the goblins. With hoe in hand, he killed 3 and rallied the farmers to go up to Wainfleet, where he slew thrice that again. The few goblins left mounted their walls, fleeing the farmers' rafts back into the wilderness to seek out easier prey. Geg looked around, and upon seeing the ruin of his home village, became angry. Now he cared about Sir Gallus, the vow-eschewing knight, and so Geg marched to the door of the keep. The knight's 2 tax collectors made a show of barring the way, but they had seen the farmer pull a goblin's head from its shoulders, so they stepped aside, with little more than a dark stare from Geg. The farmhand hammered on the door, but there came no response, so he barged it open. It was dark inside the keep, and it stank. But Geg wanted answers and carried on. He walked deeper into the building, and found Sir Gallus in the solar. The knight slowly rose at the sight of the intruder, the impudent peasant who had dared invade his sanctuary. Geg saw that there was something wrong. The knight's clothes were filthy. Sir Gallus's eyes were rheumy, and a straggly beard attempted to hide a boil that had grown to the size of a large cabbage on his neck. Flies flew about Sir Gallus like beloved pets. The knight tried to speak, but the pustule prevented him opening his mouth. Instead, he drew his sword, but in an ungainly manner, as he wasn't used to fighting, or even moving, it seemed, with such a weight about the base of his head. Geg backed away, unsure until he heard a voice. A lady's voice asking for a favor, asking that Geg, the peasant, slay this false knight. Geg turned about desperately looking for a weapon, and he saw a lance hanging upon the wall. He grabbed the lance and swung it around to confront Sir Gallus, who was ponderously approaching. "Lance that boil," said the female voice, and so Geg charged. He struck the knight tip first above the chest, in the neck, and indeed, literally, lanced the boil. Pus burst forth like ale from a cracked barrel. If Geg had been closer or wielding any other weapon, he would have been struck by the feculent spray, but the lance was long, and the peasant remained safe. Sir Gallus screamed an inhumane scream, and the brave villagers came running in to see him wither on the floor of the solar. None doubted that their liege had not been a mortal man for some time. And then the lady appeared, with grail in hand, and bid that Geg sup from it. The villagers prostrated themselves as their goddess appeared before them, but she told them to look up and bear witness, as Geg was made a knight. From that day forth, the farmhand was Sir Geg of Wainfleet, the peasant knight. Sir Gallus's uncle was outraged at this dull tale, and claimed that it was nothing more than a peasant's revolt and murder of their legal lord and his nephew. Even now he sends knights of the realm to wrest back the land, yet his plans have always been foiled. But that is another story. And with that, my friends, we've come to the end of the first of the two stories in this little ebook. Tomorrow we shall post the second story. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and until tomorrow, adios.